Marjorie, let's get into our first topic then, shall we? And should all drugs be legalised? Get your calls in for this one now. A new survey has looked into the habits of Gen Z, so we're talking 13 to 28-year-olds, and it found that 1 in 5 are teetotal and more than half have never smoked or vaped. But it also found that they have different attitudes when it comes to drugs. So if we take a look at some of the statistics here, in 2004, a huge majority of young people said taking ecstasy should be a criminal offence. This is the big blue line. Now a decent proportion, 27%, think it should not be a criminal offence. And there's similar statistics when it comes to cocaine. The number stands at 23% think that it should not be a criminal offence. Still the majority believing that it should be 68% there. But the key thing here is that attitudes are shifting quite dramatically. So should we listen to the younger generation and legalise drugs? All drugs, Owen?
Yes, well, you say all drugs. I'm literally taking drugs on national television. I'm drinking caffeine, which is a drug, which is true. It's a central nervous system stimulant. Obviously, alcohol is legal. If alcohol was discovered today, it would be considered one of the worst possible drugs. It would be a Class A drug. It kills thousands of people every year. It attacks multiple organs, brain, heart, you name it, causes people to be overweight, drives a lot of violence in this country. It's a bad disinhibiting effect, obviously. So I say that because it's arbitrary, the war on drugs.
So hold on, shouldn't we be banning alcohol rather than legalising cocaine?
No, because we did that. That's the point. Very good point you made there, which is that the US tried that. They did prohibition. And what prohibition did is it gave alcohol to criminal gangs. That's what prohibition does in practice. It gives them a huge supply of funds, which made crime overwhelm the United States at the time. And it also meant people made their own alcohol, which was often deadly and killed lots of people. The reason I say that is that's what's happened with drugs. The war on drugs was declared by Richard Nixon over 50 years ago, and the US has spent alone over $1 trillion on it. And in that period, drug use has spiralled out of control. Criminal gangs, because they've been handed an industry, a whole industry to run, have gone rampant. They've caused chaos, death and destruction in countries from Mexico to the Philippines, killing countless number of people. It's criminalised large numbers of people. And I think as well, it's, the problem we often have is about what people are taking is dangerous because of what's in it, because they don't know. There's no control of substance.
So if we legalised it, we could do a bit of quality control.
Well, exactly. And this is the other point as well, because, they decriminalised it in Portugal, by the way, and people think, oh, well, addiction must have spiralled. Decriminalisation is the same as legalisation. Yeah. It's treated as a health issue, though. If you're found with a substance on you below a certain amount, you refer to a health clinic to assess your needs. It's a very good idea, I would say. But drug use, actually, what actually happened in Portugal was really interesting is in the first few years of the policy, overdoses went down by 85%, lowest drug mortality in Western Europe, 50 times lower than the United States, and drug use amongst those in their late teens or early 20s actually fell, and people with problematic or addictions to drugs actually fell as well. I think there's a misunderstanding of what addiction is. People think you take something and then you'll become addicted. It's often self-medication for people who have trauma. And the other point I just make, finally, is, ecstasy. We mentioned ecstasy there. Professor David Nutt was the drug advisor to the last Labour government, and he was fired, I think in 2008. And he was fired because he said a statistical fact, which is taking ecstasy is less dangerous, less likely to cause you harm than riding a horse. If you ride a horse, people do have accidents when they ride a horse, and we don't ban that. You might go, people might go, well, you don't need to ride a horse. People do it for thrills. People do it for enjoyment. Life is about risk management, and everything we do has risks. But I think in the case of, caffeine can kill people. But I think in the case of ecstasy, that's an example of a drug which is way less harmful.
How much caffeine? How many overdoses have there been from caffeine?
Well, it depends. People with heart conditions. That's the thing. Well, but that's the point. A lot of, that's been the case. Okay. With ecstasy, which very few people die.
I just want Geoff to come in on this. Geoff, you've heard what Owen has to say. Are we losing the war on drugs? Do we need a new approach?
Yeah, look, it hasn't been massively successful. And first up, I'd say, decriminalise, absolutely. When you see the police in Peterborough proudly going and sort of raiding essentially a pub when there's 20 coppers going in there. It just adds to the perception that the police aren't focused on the priorities. You know, there's not a lot of community policing, but they're sort of taking the easy win of going in there and just searching people. Decriminalisation, definitely. But I think each country, like you mentioned Portugal, but each country, when you legislate on anything, you have to consider what is your national character? How do the citizens of your state react to things? Now, I don't know if anyone would have looked at the Euro 2021 final and thought, you know what needs to be more freely available? Cocaine. Now, I would say cocaine, particularly as an issue, the question we've got to ask ourselves as a country, if we legalise cocaine in this country, not Portugal, in this country, do we think usage would go up or would it go down? I know what my hunch is. And I also think other Class A drugs maybe need to be considered separately because cocaine, like anyone that's done ecstasy probably wouldn't do that during the week or at work. Same with psychedelics or hallucinogens. Whereas cocaine has got a proven record of people doing it at work, during the day. It's a highly, highly addictive substance. So I just think that it's not right. Decriminalise for this country, but don't legalise in the UK.
It's interesting when you say you have to take a look at the attitudes of the people that live in the country and the country's characteristics. I wonder what you at home think about this. James from Gloucestershire, you're up first. Do give us a call. The 0207 862 2222 is the number. Should we legalise all drugs in this country? James, what's your view when it comes to drugs and our law?
Hello, Storm. Hello, Owen. Hello, everybody. I'm an ex-user from the 90s, and no, I don't think it should be legalised at all. Decriminalised, like the nice chap explained on there.
Yep.
Quite
there you go, you got a nice chap.
Yeah, I'll say that.
There we go.
Sorry, James. It's Geoff and Owen, just to be very clear.
It's nice chap.
So you think decriminalise but not legalise? Why not legalise? We could have quality control on it, as Owen said. We could tax on it. We take it out the hands of dangerous drug cartels and drug dealers. It could benefit the country.
No, it's not all about money, is it? And taxing these sort of things. It's it's too dangerous. Things like methamphetamine and cocaine and crack, and it just warps your mind. And the things people do and think is, it's just too big a risk. Really.
Well, just on that a bit, when we say legalise, I don't think anyone's proposing pop into newsagents, get a load of coke. That would not work. I think what you'd have to have is...
Well, if we use it the same way that we do alcohol and tobacco, we are kind of saying that, aren't we? We're saying that you would be able to buy it in certain circumstances.
What I would do is I would have state-run suppliers, and then you would be able to regulate people's use. So I don't think it should just be widely available. In other countries, by the way, including in some US states, weirdly, there's a state monopoly on the supply of alcohol. So there are precedents for doing that. You can legalise a substance, but you can still control its usage. So I wouldn't say that. I mean, the other point is people say about psychedelics. James, honestly, people on psychedelics, I prefer someone on LSD, a bunch of rowdy guys on LSD compared to a bunch of rowdy guys on alcohol. Alcohol is so bad for people's behaviour compared to other substances.
James, but comparing it to alcohol may not be the right argument, because what we might be saying there is that alcohol should be banned, essentially. James, do you have any experience with addiction?
Yes, I'm an ex-alcoholic. I've been clean, sober now for almost 18 years. I've been off heroin and methadone now probably for 15 years almost. I haven't smoked for almost 15 years. So, I've got a long, extensive use with drugs. And it's all well and good in theory, Owen saying it would be controlled by the state. But people will find it elsewhere. That's the insidious nature of drugs. You start getting it from the state supply people, they just want more and more. That's just the way these kind of addictive drugs works.
I think James makes a really good point there, is if you're saying the state should sort of limit when and where it would be available, I don't actually think you then get rid of the illegal trade, because if people are addicted and if people are on a night out and they want to get a stimulant, they're going to call whoever can provide them with that.
Yeah, but it would massively plummet, because the vast majority of people who take drugs are not addicted to them. Most people who take cocaine in this country do not have an addiction to coke. That's only a small minority. It's the same with alcohol. You know, alcohol is a very addictive substance. The vast majority of people who drink alcohol are not addicted to it. I do think what you'd have then is you wouldn't just stamp out all crime. People illegally sell alcohol in this country, but you would be able to, it would massively collapse the industry, and you would be able to regulate what's in it. Because otherwise people will have to go, well, if I want more of it, I've got to get this dodgy substance, which is less quality, and I don't know what's in it.
All right, James, thank you very much for calling with your experience of that. Christine from Hampshire, where do you stand when it comes to legalising drugs in this country?
Oh, definitely not. No, I'm so against it. I usually agree with Owen, but don't agree with him at all. As an 80-year-old grandmother, and why would you want to ruin your beautiful children's minds by letting them take drugs? In fact, I feel so strongly about it, Storm. I would bring back the death penalty for people who sell drugs to people. I feel that strongly about it. I think they're despicable people, and the world would be better off without them. It's bad enough.
Christine, do you feel that same way about supermarkets that sell alcohol and tobacco, because they're killing us too?
No, you can control those much better. Alcohol and cigarettes aren't mind-altering.
Christine,
alcohol might be, but
Christine, smoking kills 50% of all people who smoke. 50%. I mean, it's one. I just think alcohol, objectively, is just objectively worse for you than most other drugs. I mean, you know, cocaine is comparable to alcohol, don't get me wrong, and I'd say heroin and meth, crystal meth, are above alcohol, but below alcohol are, for example, ecstasy, MDMA, ketamine, methadone. All of these are less harmful, so it just seems arbitrary why you would literally kill people for supplying things which are less harmful than legal substances.
Now, look, Owen, rubbish. I grew up in the age when having a baby sham and the odd cigarette did no harm to us whatsoever.
Smoking? Smoking killed huge numbers of people.
A baby sham and the odd cigarette.
Yeah,
most people that start smoking, Owen, don't get addicted.
No, but 50%. No, 50. It used to be around 50%.
I think smoking is highly
around
addictive.
50% of people who in this country used to smoke.
Who smoke regularly, but there's a lot of social smokers, a lot of vapers. I'm just turning your argument back to you about cocaine.
Yeah, but it caused a massive increase in lung cancer. 50% of people who smoke die.
I'm just wondering, from Christine's perspective. Sorry, we've heard what Owen and Geoff have to say. When it comes to alcohol and cigarettes, it's your belief that they're absolutely fine, or actually do you think if we were to look at them objectively, Christine, and what they do to our society, specifically British society, which, let's face it, as Geoff's pointed out, doesn't have a great relationship with alcohol. We do tend to revolve everything around it. I wonder whether actually, if you were to be objective about it, you would also ban them.
No, I wouldn't ban alcohol and cigarettes. No, you've got to have the odd little vice in life, but drugs are a completely different thing. It's bad enough if you're on drugs prescribed by your GP to come off them, let alone heroin and cocaine and those mind-altering things. And I don't know what this new drug ketamine is about. I mean, but I absolutely dread the thought.
Well, ketamine's actually used in medical circumstances, Christine. It's used medically to treat depression. But also, just on that, how many people are killed by alcohol a year, Christine? Do you know the figure? Directly, I don't mean indirectly.
I think you're clutching at straws, Owen.
Am I? Alcohol is just much. If a doctor will tell you that alcohol is more harmful to you than those other drugs that I mentioned.
But the number of people participating in alcohol is way higher. So what I'd like to see is a comparative study of the people that abuse
I need to move on.
Yeah,
Christine,
MDMA statistically is.
Christine, you displayed your view very passionately. Thank you very much for calling. Do call again. Marjorie from Greater Manchester, what's your view?
I think all drugs should be legalised.
All of them, so heroin, crack cocaine, you're happy to have them all on your high street, happy to have them in...
Not the high street.
The nightclub. Well, where are we
I did.
doing them?
You just have a state-run thing so you can...
What's a state-run thing? You've got to be specific.
Okay, you have a state-run stores where people have to, which can vet how much...
Rooms?
No, so in America, in some countries, in some American states, there's a state monopoly on alcohol.
I understand that,
and in Scandinavia as well.
Where do you think people are taking them?
I would also say we have a massive problem with NIMBYism in this country. Good luck trying to put in a state-run sort of super drug type store.
Marjorie, I want to hear from you. Legalise all of them, so you're happy for people to be taking...
People still buy them, and they'll be a lot safer if you're legalised, because you actually know what's in them rather than getting cut with all sorts.
Absolutely. So you've got quality control, you could do tax, but it could mean that we could see heroin in our nightclubs, we could see crack cocaine being smoked out in the streets.
Well, no, because crack cocaine isn't really one of those drugs that you would smoke on the street. That's done at home, and heroin as well.
No idea. All right. Okay, but what I'm trying to say, we could see more and more of it out in public, and you're comfortable with that? It could encourage more people to take drugs.
Because it's like alcohol's a demon. That's the worst one.
And you can,
When you go and sit in a pub, the violence that can happen.
I think most people accept that alcohol, if you were to deal with it now and legislate, you probably would have a different route. But we are where we are. A lot of these other drugs are, alcohol, our relationship with that goes back to thousands of years. A lot of these drugs are more recent, so we're managing our relationship now. I'll take the point on alcohol.
I mean, heroin goes back ages.
I'll take the point on the damages of alcohol, but I don't think we can, to talk about what we legislate that now, I think it's a bit of a red herring.
All right, Marjorie, thank you very much for your call.